Well, hey, good Wednesday evening to you. How is everyone? It's good to see you. It's good to be seen by you. And is everybody hearing me okay? Is my audio 5x5? I hope it is. I hope that it is. I was having a little trouble with Voicemeeter earlier. See, this here is my studio PC, and which is differentiated because it's the PC that is 5 feet away from the editing and gaming PC. But I was recording some voiceovers. Oh, wait. Yeah, no. Sorry. Who am I? I keep saying I, me, and you might not even know who I am. I am Bill Sylvie, also known as the Dungeon Delver, the only Dungeon Delver, I might add, the one, the only. Anyway, I would call this more audible clamor, Robert Phillips, if I may. Dave Mills, good to see you, my friend. How the heck are you? But anyway, yeah, so I was recording I was attempting to record audio for the Dungeon Minister for a thing that he asked me to do for him. And I came over here and I said, I went through and I did a few different things, and I went through and I did a bunch of takes and put them on a flash drive and sneaker netted them over to that PC over there. And like the audio was just like every slider was maxed out on that PC, and it was barely audible. So I get to do that all again. That was an hour down the toilet. So and my first thought was Voicemeeter screwing something up. So I got to try and figure out what to do to fix that for the Dungeon Minister. But anyhow, how are y'all doing? I'm frazzled, but it has nothing really to do with tonight, because you might have noticed we didn't start off with a cool science fiction intro with a bomb, the awesome kind of Basil Poldoris sort of Brad Fidel booming soundtrack and science fiction imagery that my co-host Kyle Schuant puts together so well for Wednesday Night Traveler. He is actually under the weather. Of all the people I would have thought would be under the weather, the last one was Kyle, because that guy, I mean, he's 5 kinds of awesome. And honestly, without him on Wednesday nights, there might not be a Wednesday night show. I might have to be like, I got to take a day off. So we love us some Kyle Schuon around here, and hope you're feeling better real soon, Kyle. And we'll be back with Traveler next Wednesday. Knock on wood when I say that. So that is the hope. But at any rate, so technical problems aside, all my problems are emotional and stress related. So, but I was telling the missus the other day, I was telling her, I was like, I feel like things have got to start getting better soon. I feel like things are going to turn positive, that every day is going to be better than the day before. So I hope that's the case. We'll see what 2023 has in store for us. But we're going to talk about right now, tonight. Exciting news. Speaking of people from down under, there's Wave of Mutilation. John says he's recovering from last night. Somehow I managed to dislocate my arm. Pure agony. No worries. I just didn't ache. You still have 1 hit point. Owie. What'd you do? Were you like outside working on the lawn? Maybe bent over the car all evening? Lifting weights out in the garage, pumping iron? What happened? So yeah, so that's what's the haps. So tonight we're actually going to finish up at least the Cthulhu mythos in Deities and Demigods. We're going to drive on through. We're going to break on through to the other side. The book is neat, deep, and wide, break on through to the other side. So anyway, bags of heavy coins, 10 coins, 1 pound. There you go, 1.6 ounces per coin. I don't know, Wom. I honestly don't know what happened. So yeah, we're gonna keep on Deities and Demigodsing, but since it's a little informal, I'm not gonna jump in straight away. There you go. Ran out of energy on leg day. Happens to me all the time. As you can tell, well, you may not like it, but this is what peak gamer performance looks like. So anyway, so tonight we're going to do some Deities and Demigods. Then we're going to have just kind of a nerd roundtable. Some of the guys from Traveler are gonna come in probably around 9 o'clock, and we're just gonna roundtable and see who wants to talk about what. And if you guys have got anything on your minds, any suggestions? I look like I'm holding miniature Chow Yun Fat there. If there's something you guys are interested in talking about, please make a suggestion over in the comments. So that's happening. Kyle once told me a funny, because I asked him, I said, should I start running again? Greetings, Imperial Ramblings. I said, should I start running again? And he said, and I can't do an Aussie accent. I can't do it. I won't even attempt it. It's not fair. But he said, is something going to be chasing you? I was like, no. And he said, then don't run. He's a fitness coach. He's a strength coach. So that wasn't just like, just random person I know on the internet saying, no, don't work out. What are you, crazy? You keep your weird kinks out of here, Wave of Mutilation. Speaking of weird kinks, I've mentioned this before, and while I've been painting, that's what I was going to mention. Painting. Let's set this story aside real quick. We'll come back to it in a second. All of the green devil face walls, if you don't follow us on Discord, yes, we have a Discord. If you don't follow us on Discord and you don't follow me on Twitter and you don't follow me on Facebook, just what the hell are you doing here? No, if you don't follow me on social media, all of the green devil face walls are complete. They will be packed and they will be shipped tomorrow. I am officially, as of now, opening up the Owl Bear set, the Owl Bear Trio. It is a Chinosaur Owl Bear. These are reprinted 3D resin prints. Chinosaur Owl Bear. The first edition AD&D Monster Manual Owl Bear, which is very similar phenologically. And the original D&D Owl Bear, which is a sight to behold. My hat's off to this, and I'll show you guys. This is what I'm talking about. If you look in Supplement 1 Greyhawk, you'll see this guy right there. Focus. Come on. So anyway, you can get the trio OGOB. That's right, Dave Mills. You can get the trio, and the entire trio is $45. Now, that's 3 miniatures printed, packed, and sent to you. No, they're not painted. the green devil face walls have taught me to never offer you guys painted stuff again. Not for that price point. But here's the thing. Like the devil face walls, like the beholders, and as miniatures going ahead, 10 orders of those, and we trigger them. So don't message me here in chat. Don't message me over on the Discord, but reach out to me, email. I'll put it up on the screen. It's actually, it's in there. But I will. I typed that right? Yes. bsylvia@gmail.com. If you wish to basically pre-order a set of owl bears, that's the whole trio, for $45, shoot me an email, and when I get 10, I'll start production on them. After these, we are doing pumpkin-headed bugbears, not owl bears, pumpkin-headed bugbears, which I'll have to sculpt from scratch, but they will also be a trio. You'll get 3 of them to use. So 3 jack-o'-lantern head bugbears, but right now it's owl bears. Jimmy Invictus says, if I want to work out, lift and either bike, walk, or swim. Don't run. Protect your knees. Yeah, I think I'm kind of at the point anymore where I'm not going to be running. I'll walk more, but I won't run. So any interest in the owl bears, please email me and put in the subject line owl bear pre-order, and let me know how many sets of 3 you want. 1, 2, 3. You want to buy all 10, you're feeling generous. I don't know. That's up to you. But that's how you do that. That is how you do it. TJ, thank you. TJ's already ordered one. That is 9 available. Now, what do I mean by that's 9 available? When I get 10, 10 is what I print. So if you want the owl bears, if you want a set of owl bears, understand there's 9 left. I could have somebody come in to get 4 and then somebody else come in to get 5. That's not going to happen, but it could. And then that's it. They're done. So if you want, like, oh, I want those 3. I want a classic Greyhawk owl bear, and I want a Chinosaur owl bear, and I want a 1E Monster Manual owl bear because they look cool and they're old school. This is the time. Shoot me an email. Owl bills. My owl bears are, they're named Roger. They are from Wisconsin or Ohio, right in that kind of Midwestern area. They exist strict because they're semi-magical creatures. They exist in the year 1978. They have a Cleveland Browns jacket on constantly. They're mad at the world. And when you pull up in front of your house, they're living across the street from you, they're cursing a blue streak as they're working on their car. So anyway, that's what's going on. The Green Devil faces are going out. And when I get 10 orders for production, the owl bear production will begin. So that is a happy thing. And let's move on to other stuff. Let us move on to other stuff. That is bsylvie@gmail.com. What else do we got going on? Tomorrow night, more Deities and Demigods Let's Read. And then Friday night, now, you might think, oh, he's going to split the show. He's going to have his live stream game, but he's going to have content first. Friday night, start to finish, whatever that finish may be, is all classic Call of Cthulhu. It is the Samhain. It is the season of the witch. Horror will be visited on 4 players as they struggle to maintain their sanity in a place that no human should be. You don't want to miss that. That is Friday night at 9 o'clock. And I hope you all join us. So I'm looking forward to that. I hope you're looking forward to that. And I gotta do a couple things real quick here. Let's see. Where's the invite? Sending links to people because hey, we got our Council of Doom. Our Council of Doom. And I want to make sure that they get make sure that everybody gets summoned appropriately. So, Safi, if you're out there, please spread that link around to your fellow crewmates. And if any of the other Wednesday night crowd needs that link, let me know, and I will send it to you. Okay, 2 Owlbear sets are now gone. I just popped open my email. 2 Owlbear sets are now gone. There's 8 left, guys. 2 went like that. So if you want a set of Owlbears, 3D printed classic Owlbears, one of them's a Chinosaur. They don't make them anymore. Those things go for $100 on eBay. This is your chance. When is Guac Part 2 Electric Boogaloo? Asks Luther Pendragon. I don't know if there will be a Guac 2. I don't know if there's a big enough demand for Guac 2. So we'll have to see. All right. I've run my mouth to the point that it is runabout. So let's jump back into Deities and Demigods. What do you think? This is a really bad version of QVC. You're going to go buy like a truckload of mall katanas. Look at the steel, folks. Look at the steel. And this blade, look, it slices through a tomato. All right. So we looked at Hastur last night. I think Hastur's a lot more amorphous than a 200-foot tall Tyrannosaurus Rex with dicks all over him, but that's what Errol Otis gave us. So let's jump back into it. Now we're talking about a deity. I think this is from Native American lore originally, or perhaps First Nations in Canada. The name, at least. And it's just something that Lovecraft cribbed because he was fascinated with Canadian history. There's a history book. If you want a history book, at least that goes up to like 1925, there's a fairly comprehensive history of Montreal. I think it's Montreal, or was it Quebec? But it was written by Howard Phillips Lovecraft. It's a scholarly study of the history of the city. But everything's, old squid face, calamari mouth. That's the Lovecraft we know. But he actually wrote an historical account of the city. So let us move on as we look at Ithaquah, and I guess you guys would like to see it. So let me click the 7 buttons it takes to get this on screen. So we start with Ithaquah, about whom we know very little because we don't get much art, but he is mentioned. He is he a greater god? Demigod. And of course, he's chaotic evil. 2 burning eyes and a human-shaped cloud of snow. Ithaquah the snowman was an elder thing, they say. 13th level cleric, 15th level fighter. First thing we run into that actually has level. No, I take that back. Cthulhu is a 20th level magic user. Anyway, 12th level illusionist. Like all great old ones, he's bad news. Ithaqua, the Windwalker, appears as a cloud of fog or snow, huge but human in shape with blazing red eyes. When seen passing overhead, one gets the illusion of two bright stars close together. Greetings, Mobius. Oh, when the holidays get here, I'm going to be singing lots of Christmas carols, Luther. He's worshipped by the natives of the far north. Well, there we go. I think that must be it. Because of his ability to control weather, triple the range and effects. His worshippers appropriate him with human sacrifices, which he carries off no one knows where. Years later, their frozen bodies are sometimes found buried in snowdrifts. Ithaqua will also pursue and capture anyone who sees him or annoys him, or meddles with his worshippers or their stone altars in the forest. Sometimes his victims return to Earth alive, but they never survive long as they die from strange unnatural causes. Strange unnatural causes should be the name of this entire chapter. It's to blame Jim. It's not my fault. He spelled it with a TH. Migo, the fungi from Yuggoth. They are chaotic evil. They have a psionic ability of 90 and a few attack and defense modes. They're immune to cold, dark, and vacuum. They don't have treasure. These red bat-winged creatures somewhat resemble lobsters in that they have many legs, feelers, and eye stalks, and forearms that end in great pinchers. Though they appear to be crustaceans, they are actually fungus creatures. Migo are immune to the effects of cold, dark, and vacuum and can fly across interstellar space. They cannot speak, but communicate by clicking their pinchers. And that's all we get. That is a woefully thin description, Jim. The fungi from Yuggoth are from Pluto. They remove the brains of humans, put them into special life support containers, and take them back to their home planet and experiment on them, sometimes leaving them cut off completely from any sensation whatsoever for a few centuries just to see what happens. And once again, beautiful art by Errol Otis, and they have Studebaker faces, or at least mouth parts. Nyarlathotep, the crawling chaos, the messenger of the gods. Chaotic evil, symbol, faceless sphinx, which I think is pretty badass and horrifying. Speaking of things not to be messed with, magic user illusionist, 13th level in each. I would have given him more than that. He appears as a tall, dark man. His appearance in the world is said to foretell the return of the old ones from their imprisonment. He charms humans, humanoids, and non-magical creatures by his mere, I think it's gaze, presence, good alignment, save at +4, evil at -4. Those falling under his spell either obey him or behave in a purely chaotic manner. Thus, his progress across the face of the land is followed by riot, war, mass murder, suicide, and insanity. And I should have said unalive. Oh, well. Greyhawk doesn't have a Pluto. How do you know? You know the exact layout of the Greyhawk star system? That's what I thought. The god is believed by some students of the occult to have various guises, including a red bat-like form with 3 evil eyes. He can call up an army of wild beasts or mindless humans within an hour's notice. Yes, I can summon minions. Just give me an hour, okay? Can you imagine he takes an hour and the GM rolls and it's one crazy guy like with a chair leg with some nails sticking in it? Each time Nyarlathotep hits an enemy, he drains 3 to 30 hit points from them, which temporarily add to his hit points. There's a 5% chance that a continual light spell will drive this being off into the astral plane. Good to know. Thank you, Wave of Mutilation. Primordial One. These guys are from At the Mountains of Madness, and I never read that story and don't picture them as looking exactly like this, which is a butthole with eye stalks on top of a cucumber with bat wings and tree branches for arms sitting on an octopus. They are lawful evil. Note, the only other lawful creatures in the entire pantheon. Although I would make the argument that if Jim had included Nodens, a favorite of Lovecraft's in here, if he had included Nodens would almost have to have been lawful neutral. These creatures are barrel-shaped cylinders with membranous wings. On top of the body is a head covered by 3-inch wiry cilia of many colors. They have 5 red iris-globed eyes. At the top of their heads are 5 mouthed tentacles, and at the base of their bodies are 5 powerful tentacles used for locomotion. The primordial ones are actually an alien race of high intelligence and advanced science. They hate all other types of intelligence and will destroy them if possible, striking with 3 of their powerful walking tentacles if no advanced weaponry is available. What do I imagine they smell like? Lovecraft describes them because, remember, in spoiler alert, I'll give you a couple of seconds here. I'll give you a couple of seconds to turn the audio down a little bit. But in At the Mountains of Madness, remember, they find some of these things that are in a torpor, but they think, first of all, they think they're plants. They think they're some breed of giant sea cucumber. And so they start a rough dissection of one of them. And the smell is described as being like ocean plant life, like foul ocean plant life odor, if I'm recalling correctly. And it drives everyone crazy. So now, Shoggoth. I have a funny story about Shoggoths. I just love how Errol just kind of gave it a leg. It's just chilling. It's like, I have seen a human. They have legs. I will make a leg. So they're chaotic evil. Now I want you to take a look at something. 20 hit dice. Dual 3 to 30 hit point attacks. In my Greyhawk game, first of all, we'll read the deeds. Originally created by the primordial ones as servants, the Shoggoth eventually rebelled and destroyed the civilization of their masters. Shoggoths resemble huge, intelligent amoebae, able to form almost any shape out of their near-transparent bodies, including legs, eyes, mouths, huge weapons, or whatever is needed. The few remaining Shoggoths lurk in distant, long-deserted areas, sometimes aiding servants of Cthulhu or other old ones. I thought it would be a great idea because my party was deep underground, not in Castle Delve, different location, in this Romanesque but completely underground city. And they found a pit, not going to bury the lead, Shoggoth in it, comes out and attacks. Even with its magic resistance, in 2 or 3 rounds, the party had destroyed the Shoggoth. It had struck once, doing 8 points of damage. The horror of Antarctica, the thing that drove poor Gedney mad when he looked back and saw it crawling out of the ground as the narrator and he flew away from the horrible plateau of Lang, did less damage than an ogre can do on a really good roll. I was very, very disappointed. A Shoggoth is basically a giant sneeze come to life. Great. Somebody sneezes and you want to keep it. I was disappointed. Dad, I am useless Shoggoth. Son, I am disappointed. So there we go. That's the Shoggoths for you. Now, you know, and I know, you can see it on the screen what that is called. If I say that name out loud, the YouTube algorithm will get me. If you've heard me saying that name before, I kind of mumble the first syllable of the second half of its name. Suffice to say, this is the black goat of the woods with 1,000 young. And this is where we kind of come to a point of contention, Jim. Just a little one, not a huge one. Oh, good Lord, yes, Eckley, Jay Eckley. The Shoggoth would absolutely pull a person apart, which is, you know, what Gedney and I think it was Danforth. Was Danforth his name? I can't remember. We're terribly afraid of. Would John Carpenter's version of The Thing count as a Shoggoth with infection power? First of all, let me just say, I know The Thing from Another World by John Campbell is a very different story from At the Mountains of Madness. I can't help but think the Carpenter was channeling a little bit of At the Mountains of Madness. Just a little bit. A Shoggoth with infection power. Possibly. Was Wilbur Wait? No, Wilbur Whately was, if I'm remembering Wilbur correctly, Wilbur was a, he was basically a son of the next deity we're going to see. I've gone blank. Why have I gone blank? Anyway, so Shub, armor class 4, 400 hit points. Lesser God, 400 hit points, just like Azathoth, just like Cthulhu. Damage per attack, see below. Special attacks, monster creation, special defense, +2 or better weapons to hit, magic resistance, 95%, 100 feet in diameter, chaotic evil, symbol black goat, plain prime material, yada, yada, yada. You know all the stats. Just fights as a 16th level monster. I love this name, by the way. Yog-Sothoth, that's who I was trying to think of. In the Mouth of Madness is a fantastic film, and I will fight anyone who says otherwise. This fountain of uncleanliness is a huge pool of gray matter 100 feet across in the caverns beneath Mount Vormithadreth. Sometimes, Jim, sometimes. Because if you look in the Call of Cthulhu rules, she looks, and it is a she, like a giant uprooted tree with only a few branches that are her whipping around tentacles, with 2 massive tree trunk legs and a bulbous body. So she's not necessarily just a pool underneath Mount Vormithadreth. I think you gave her short shrift, Jim. That's just my feelings on it, bud. Not being ugly, just saying. Oh, wait, that's not nice. It is constantly putting forth, it is constantly bubbling and putting forth mouths, limbs, pseudopods, and whole creatures. 1 to 100 small monsters are created from the pool each round, and they go crawling, flopping, or flying away into the caverns above. Some fall back into the pool, which then grows mouths and devours them. It is intelligent and telepathically sensitive. When it senses the approach of enemies, range 1,000 feet, it will begin creating monsters to defend itself. 1 per melee round. These will be random according to the following table. Bayaki, Deep One, Great Race. Don't believe that. Remember, they're not evil. Migo, Primordial One, or Shoggoth. I can't help but think that okay, so Brodo, I think yes, but no, but yes, but maybe. There actually is something called the Great Mother, I think, in some Mesoamerican lore that is a mass of plastic mouths and eyeball, or a mass of plasticity with mouths and eyeballs. But I don't know much about it. What the gibbering mouther does, other than the spittle that it goes off like a flashbang, is a lot more like a Shoggoth even than a black pudding, which could also be like a Shoggoth. Wave of Mutilation. I love Del Toro. You know who else? Brian Yunza. Brian Yunza's HPL films are a lot of fun. From Beyond, Herbert West Reanimator. Bride of Reanimator was camp. And don't watch him after that. And here we go. We have, as only Errol Otis can give us, there she is. And as you can see, there's a Yithian, a member of the Great Race, trucking out right there in the background. When I was a kid, I used to try and figure out, okay, what D&D monsters are these? What types of D&D monsters could these be? And then it just occurred to me to stop trying because, oh my God, this is insanity personified. But if you fall in to her mass, you're done. You will basically become delicious, sexy protoplasm. As we read here, all right, one more. If any enemy is so foolish as to approach within 30 feet of the being, the pool will lash out with a huge, powerful tentacle. If it hits, it will pull the unfortunate victim into the pool, where he or she will immediately become part of the evil, swirling protoplasm. Any creature struck has a percentage chance of not being pulled into the pool equal to his or her strength. Honestly, if a party is meleeing, shoving that thing, you deserve what you get. It strikes only once per turn in this way and can simultaneously create monsters. Though its body is trapped in deep caverns, it travels the prime material plane in astral form, using its psionic powers to do evil and aid its worshippers. Yog-Sothoth, the key and the guardian of the gate. Yog-Sothoth knows the key. Yog-Sothoth is the key. He has seen what has been and what will be. He is the key and the gate. Greater God, chaotic evil. And we get down to one of the, it's not particularly pornographic, but it is one of the most lurid illustrations in AD&D. We all know what's coming here. I'm going to zoom that out a little bit. Yeah. So yeah, we know what's about to happen there. So let's just move on. That's a pretty unsavory illustration. I mean, it's a good illustration. I just, that's take your channel down level stuff. You see something like Shabana. Do you really think collapsing the dungeon will save you? That's going to buy you a few minutes of insane laughter laying on the grass, cackling as the last vestiges of your sanity struggle to cling inside your brain. And then you feel a cold, damp touch on your ankle and look over, and that mass of eyes and protoplasm and mouths is oozing up through the cracks in the ground from the collapsed dungeon. You're not getting away. There's no escape here. Yog-Sothoth exists on the astral plane. He has the ability to enter the universe at any point in space and any point in time. His astral shape appears as conergies of iridescent globes like giant soap bubbles. When he takes shape on the prime material plane, he is partly material and partly astral and appears as a gigantic mass of feelers, legs, and stalked organs. In this shape, he will start a family with human beings, producing the spawn of Yog-Sothoth. See The Dunwich Horror by H.P. Lovecraft. He is highly intelligent and extremely chaotic and unpredictable. He can gate in and out of time and space, and any of the spawn or subject races of the old ones, one per melee round. He's not subject to the laws of space and time, and can, for example, appear at various parts of the universe simultaneously. The Elder Sign, the one thing that can save us. This small gray, sometimes greenish stone in the shape of a 5-pointed star is a powerful protection against all minions of the old ones. The true potent elder signs are few in number and incredibly ancient, having been made by the elder gods. They have the following powers. They are 100% protection against psionic attacks. They are a force that will drive off all Shoggoths, Bayeki, flame creatures, deep ones, and Migo when strongly presented. And while they will not stop the persistent efforts of any of the more powerful masters, they will provide a +6 protection against their attacks as a ring of protection. The Elder Signs are highly resistant to destruction, armor class -2, broken only by magic or incredible force. The Elder Sign was used by the Elder Gods to seal off those places where the Great Old Ones were imprisoned or where they had a chance of breaking through in force to the prime material plane. The Necronomicon. The Necronomicon is a powerful and perilous magical tome of ancient origins. It was originally written by Abdul al-Hazred, a great magic user known to some as the Mad Arab. After 10 years alone in the desert, he wrote a book called Al-Azif, words used to denote the nocturnal sounds of insects, which may be the voices of demons. Al-Hazred was later seized in the streets of a desert city by invisible demons and devoured horribly in front of many witnesses. Those who have studied his writings have sometimes met a fate nearly as terrible. The book was banned and all known copies were destroyed, but a few translated editions, retitled The Necronomicon, still exist. The book gives a description of the pre-human worship of the Old Ones, their banishment by the Elder Gods, and their imminent return. The revelations of cosmic horror contained within its pages are so intense there is a 40% probability of characters below 5th level changing alignment to chaotic or going mad. The probability decreases by 5% for every level of the reader above 4th. It would appear that spells are given for summoning all of the Old Ones and their minions, and some spells for their control and dismissal, although these latter are not always effective. The spells are very long and complicated and not entirely comprehensible without long study and research. In fact, only magic users of 18 intelligence have a chance of understanding and thereby using them. And that chance is only 5% per level, starting at the 6th. Many of the spells require that the stars be right and can only take place at certain times of the year or in certain places. Attempting to cast any of the greater summoning spells will result in a straight 30% chance of the caster going insane. The spells don't always work, In particular, they often fail to protect the magic user from the thing he or she is called from the outer darkness. Such unfortunates are rarely seen again, although simulacra or zombie-like imitations sometimes appear. In addition to the Necronomicon, there are a number of other magical books giving information on the old ones and their minions, including the Book of Ebon, the Solano Fragments, Cultes de Ghouls by the Comte d'Erlet, De Vermis Mysterious by Ludwig Prynne, the Dole Chants, the Narcotic Manuscripts, and Unaussprechlichen Kulten by von Junt. Most of these are histories, but some have powers similar to, but lesser than, the Necronomicon itself. These lesser books are not as dangerous to the magic user or his surroundings. Jimmy Invictus, do not call up that which you cannot put down. Not dead which eternal lies, yet in some strange eons even death may die. And those, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, are the Cthulhu mythos. I hope you found them as horrifying as they are made out to be. Now, we have the Egyptian mythos, which not only in mere proximity in the book, but thematically are somewhat close to the Cthulhu mythos in ways. But I think we're going to get to those tomorrow night. We're going to start the Egyptian mythos tomorrow night. We're not going to do a mythos a night. That would take months to get through. No, weeks. I wish it was bigger too. I think there's other stuff that we could have gotten more information on, and there could have been more information given. But remember, this book only came out 50 years after Lovecraft's passing. 49 years. But then he had no surviving family. August Derleth browbeat some aunt of his into basically signing over his works, which is how Arkham House wound up as the sole publisher. But now that it's been over 90 years, anyone can publish anything about Lovecraft that they want and not have to pay a single penny to anybody. But yeah, I do wish there was more. Lovecraftian mythos stuff. Are the Hyborian gods in this book? Unfortunately not. Now, TSR was not forbidden from doing those. In fact, they had a license. They did do some Conan stuff a little bit after this book came out. But it would have been nice to have gotten them in here. But then I'm also sure the Blooms probably would have shut that down eventually. Egyptian mythos on Thursday. I'm glad you look forward to it, John Scott. It will be fun. Let's hear it for the sun god. He's a real fun god. Rah, 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 rah. And I should point out that this entire section is rife with Jeff D. artwork. If the weirdness and strangeness of Errol Otis's artwork has been preying upon your febrile minds, fear not. We're going to get the clean superhero lines of Jeff D. all throughout the Egyptian mythos. I see some folks filtering in. Coming into the green room, so that means we're coming up on 9 o'clock here in a little bit. And that lovely illustration of Bast. I'm going to minimize this because I'm scrolling through it, and I'm going to lose my place. Have a great night, John Scott. Thank you for hanging out with us. Take care. So let me just take a quick gander here. Let me make sure everybody has the link so they can join us. I don't know who all is going to be here. It may just be a few people. That's Crom, strong in his mountain. Crom laughs at the four winds. My God is greater. Your God is the mountain. My God is above him. Such a great little conversation. You got to love it. But anyway, so we have, folks, I mentioned this at the top of the previous hour, but just in case, we have two orders for Owlbear sets. That's 8 remaining. That's 8 sets remaining. That's this many. So if you want the classic D&D Owlbear set, now's your chance. Because when I get 10 orders, they're gone. That's it. Feel like the Danville Mint or whatever it was, and those infomercials, limited to just 100 firing days. Guys, they had kilns bigger than my house. Your mom's Gone with the Wind plate collection is not. It's not worth anything. So sorry. So, oh, you know what? You know what? Before I forget, I am going to take a minute here. First of all, this was pretty damn cool. The other day, we got our first Rabid Dog. Thank you, Rabid Dog. Bought us a coffee. I got my first coffee purchase. Thank you very much. If you want to support the show, if you want to just buy me a coffee, you can go to buymecoffee.com/bsylvie and throw a little something in there. That's entirely up to you. If you want to support us regularly, I want to support Bill month to month, I'm going to do that. You can support us on Patreon right now and Subscribestar. And I got to delete that spam. That's gone. You can PayPal direct if you want to do that. I appreciate it all. And there are some folks who have chosen to do that. So let me just take a hot minute and say an extra special big thank you to Joshua Garlock, Lord Corion, Ricky Maru, Mobius, Kevin Reynolds, Doomsword Deathmaster, Mark Simpson, Damien247, James F. Keck, William Smith, the Dungeon Minister, Manny Wall, Mark Corey, Kevin Wood, Todd Sharp, Carnivore Farmer, Rob, Jeremy Rule, Bo Ganora, Mikey Mank, Sky Hernstrom, Pete Sullivan, the DM's Council, and of course, Baron Von Headbanger. Thank you guys very much for helping out. And it does help out especially good. So I do appreciate that, guys, a lot. So thank you all for your continued support of the show. So what else do we have going before we jump into Nerd Council? There's just a few people. I don't know that we're going to like roll on for an hour or something like that. We just got a couple of people out there. Thank you, Wave of Mutilation. I hope I feel less stressed out too. That is correct, Jimmy. That is correct. And it goes straight in as opposed, because like, here's the thing. I do not look a gift horse in the mouth. And this is nobody's doing. This is just YouTube. This is just YouTube fuckery. YouTube sets a threshold and they say, at this point, we'll give you the money that you've made. Not before. So if all totaled at the end of the month, YouTube does their little funny money math, their money laundering essentially, and says, you've made $99.99 American. That's not $100. You can't have it. They won't release it. They won't let it go. They'll sit on it until that last penny rolls in. Isn't that awesome? So, yeah, that's YouTube. No, they get 30%. They get 30%. Is what AdSense, YouTube AdSense takes, and what they take of supers. So if you send me $30, they get 10 of it. You send me 300, they get 100 of it. You send me 1,000, they get 300 of it. It's a racket. It is a racket. But you know what? Let's talk some positivity because it is the top of the hour. I have some guests on right now. I always feel like evening drive time DJ. Anybody out there, if you're in your car listening to this, like you're driving somewhere late at night, that is so cool. That is so cool. You're listening to KBILL radio or WBILL if you're on this side of the Mississippi. I don't know how they do radio call signs anywhere else. I think it's X in Mexico. Mexico, it's like, it'll be XBILL. So let's bring some folks into the stream. Hello, Sapphire. You're muted, by the way.
Yep, I know. I'm here.
No. Hello. How you doing, Todd?
If I was doing any better, I'd have to clone myself.
Future's so bright, you got to wear shades. How are you guys doing this evening? You doing good?
Yeah.
Good. PvP as always.
Yeah. Sorry, no game tonight, but I certainly wasn't going to make our illustrious game master GM on a night when he was feeling under the weather. So we'll just hang out and we'll talk about, I don't know, gaming related stuff and stuff like that. But I think I have a question. You have a question? Ask.
My hand is raised in the back of the class. So, which of the pantheons from deities and demigods do you use the most?
I run Greyhawk centric games almost exclusively, so it's actually the Greyhawk deities, which we've covered on a deep read of the Greyhawk box set before. So I don't. There are deities in there, and one of the things that I tend to eschew is TJ. That is absolutely fine. Thank you. One of the things I tend to eschew is demi-human deities, and I know that there are some that I use. Obviously, Loth. You got to use Loth if you're in Greyhawk. But by and large, it's just the deities in the World of Greyhawk set. Gary himself said he never really intended there to be specific deities for demi-humans. Although I don't know why. I mean, he created Loth, and she is drow elves or demi-humans. So, and you could, Blibdulpoop, the goddess of the not the deep ones, Bill, the Kuatoa. And she is definitely a non-human deity. So I think you can go either way. I tend to use aspects of gods, like dwarves will worship, lawful good dwarves will have a lawful good deity that they worship, and it's one of the lawful good deities in the World of Greyhawk set. But that representation of them has a more dwarven-like aspect. They focus on the more dwarf things that it represents to them. I think Blared is the god of mines and mining, that is good, or at the very worst neutral in Greyhawk. So a lot of dwarves go in for Blared.
I always use the Norse gods for dwarven gods, and then I would kind of cater some and invent some for the dwarves. The elves not so much. I'm more of a dwarf guy.
No, I can see that. I can definitely see that. As in Norse myths, the dwarves are a factor fairly high. So when you run D&D, Sapphire, what do you do as far as deities?
Well, my last D&D character was a elven ranger, and she eventually became a follower of Elistray, so she became a dark lady with that whole thing. So that was an interesting thing, because she multi-classed, and so she was a sharpshooter, ranger, and cleric. Just because our party didn't have a cleric, so I kind of took that role on. I usually tend to play clerics. So I started out with the ranger part of it, just to be different, but then just multi-classed when we didn't have one of the parties. So,
right,
because that's my natural inclination.
I used to run a dwarven cleric named after my dog. His name was Brother Broham.
Well, now we know. Now we have the source. So if you guys follow us on Discord, that is Todd's handle on our Discord, Broham. So now I know. I just thought you were being a cool dude, like, what's up, Broham? So by the way, for any of our audience who may not know, so Elistray and Savvy, you can correct me on this if I fumble this too bad. So in Forgotten Realms, as I understand it, because I have played a few AD&D games where the DM had this setting as Forgotten Realms. I myself, other than owning a few of the modules from there, have not delved into it. No pun intended. As a dungeon master, but Elistray is actually she's like. I'm not trying to be crass, but if your player has a thing for tall women and drow and good, Elistray is your go-to goddess. She's like 9 feet tall, but she is a drow goddess of good. So consequently, she's kind of out on her own, not really accepted by anybody. But that much I know. I know that about Forgotten Realms.
Yep. Well, she's the daughter of Loth, and Loth kind of went crazy, and Elistray wouldn't tolerate it. So the two of them kind of parted ways and have this back and forth going. So they've got the two extremes between them.
Yeah, exactly. A wig filling in a little detail. Yes, she is the drow goddess that likes to dance in the moonlight naked. So,
and that's where the dark ladies come in. They're like her high priests or priestess. Yeah. And we did have a fun time. Her followers have to once change genders for a specific amount of time to experience the fullness of the opposite sex to get an appreciation, and then they can either stay that way or they can come back. So we actually played a couple of sessions where my character was female and then switched to a male character. And so the group wasn't really sure how to adapt to that completely. So it was kind of fun. But then I switched back. So it was hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that goes, I've said it before. It's like, I as the DM, I have to play 1 billion people, let's say. Let's say the world of Greyhawk, the population is 1 billion. Okay. 500 million men and 500 million women. That's that. So it doesn't confront me if somebody's like, "Ew, you're gonna play a female character." I'm like, why wouldn't I? Why would that bother me in the least? So it's not.
Well, it wasn't it wasn't the players. It was how the characters interaction that was just hilarious, because they were all cool with it as players and that, but their characters playing out the interaction, because of course they were used to my character as a female because we had been playing together like 2-3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so having this character that kind of looks like a character they've been with, but now having a beard and other strange facial features and just in general just kind of made for some hilarious role playing.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah, so that's
I actually have a very funny story when you get done.
Let's hear it. Oh no, I was just going to say, so you were gaming then in the Forgotten Realms, that was your jam back in that campaign, or did somebody just say, "Hey, Illustrate is in my"? Because that's the beauty of a role playing game. I mean,
we had kind of an open thing because we'd actually kind of change in different areas, because we'd move around. So it depended upon what we were doing. We did a lot with what the heck? It slips my mind right now, but it was oh crud! I'll think of it shortly.
Okay. So what were you gonna mention, Todd?
So this is a brief example of why I don't play wizards. I played one magic user, and I was on a big Isaac Poe kick, a big Edgar Allan Poe kick. He's like my favorite poet. And so I named the wizard Poe, right? Okay. So we had just escaped some slavers in a homebrew world. We had nothing. So we go to this town, and I find this guy that sells magic staffs, and I fell in love with one magic staff, and I found out he had a security system going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so my brilliant plan, because I'm known for my brilliant plans.
Yes.
My brilliant plan was to polymorph myself into a young, attractive female, and take the shopkeeper to the back, woo him, knock him out,
all right,
grab the staff, and run.
Okay.
And so I did it. I polymorphed. I went in. I was batting my eyes and rolling really good on my charisma, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I was introduced to his stock boy, which was a half giant, who took a shine to me and
fade to black.
Anyway,
you fade to black.
It was so that's why I no longer even try to play wizards. Just horrible experiences.
Some Awick says he tried the sexy jitsu.
What is the 10 towns? What is the scenario at 10 towns? Because that's where we were at quite a bit. It was northern with a lot of cold in that, a coastal kind of thing. I mean, there was a pretty sizable world that we were wandering around.
Are you talking about Green Bay?
No, in the game.
Yeah, 10
A little bit
towns.
out of Wisconsin. So
10 towns is the most northern settlement, and it's where people go that want to be forgotten.
Yes. Oh, so yeah, it must have been Forgotten Realms that we mostly stayed in then.
I'll take y'all's word for it. I'm an old Greyhawk grognard. I am not the Greyhawk grognard. He's got his own channel. That's not me. I am a grognard who plays Greyhawk. So yeah, any stuff about Forgotten Realms is news to me. You know, and what's funny is like I got my old man dander up the first, because I was trying to find out some Greyhawk information. I was like, I don't even remember what deity I was looking up, and it's like, oh yeah, here's a link. Wait a minute, this is the Forgotten Realms wiki, and you're trying to give me stats on Greyhawk deity? Get out of here, you cultural vandals, you appropriators. That's ours. We invented that.
How dare thee?
How dare they mine other fantasy sources for material? Shame on them. Because we all know that, you know, Dungeons and Dragons is a pure, unadulterated product, and there's no there's no intermingling allowed. You must get on that rail and stay on that rail. In other words, Dragonlance. 10 Towns. Oh, so this is a wig. 10 Towns is an Icewind Dale on the northern part of the Sword Coast of Faerun.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
I did misspeak. I have to say, one of the best CRPGs that I've ever played is actually the very first Baldur's Gate. I thought it was phenomenal.
And yeah, we did that with the not Baldur's Gate, but similar to that with the demons or whatever they were that start with a B.
But no, it's Baldur's Gate, and then before then, the Pool of Radiance game, the first Pool of Radiance game. So I have played a little bit of Forgotten Realms. I misspoke. But Baldur's Gate was still at a time when the core of D&D was AD&D. So it really didn't chafe on me at all. I just had a lot of fun. Plus, I found this lovely game-breaking bug that they didn't patch in the very early versions, and it made the game kind of a cakewalk. I power game the hell out of it. So here's the way the bug worked, and I felt that this was. I don't care. Don't kink shame me. This was fun. So here's the thing. In the game engine, this does not work in D&D, and if anybody ever comes to my table and is like, oh, you were discussing this, so I guess this will work in a real D&D game. No, just get out. But in the very first release of Baldur's Gate, there was a wand use bug, and here's the way it worked. As you know, as everybody in the audience knows, you guys sitting here in the studio with me know, you attack someone when invisible, it breaks your invisibility. Your invisibility is gone, and the enemy can then attack you. Well, here's the thing. According to the engine logic of Baldur's Gate Release 1.0, using a wand did not count as an attack. So, switch off party AI, cast invisibility on a character who happens to have the wand of magic missiles, go up to the encounter area, hit basically, in computer games, this is kind of a gross overstatement, but of how the Baldur's Gate logic worked, but it was, in Doom, they have things called line deaths, which when you cross them, certain events happens, like doors open, monsters teleport in, equipment teleports to you, whatever. So you go to the line death where And it would even trigger dialogue options. Like you could carry on a conversation because as far as the computer was concerned, you were there, even though the AI couldn't see you. So you'd go through the whole dialogue tree, break out the wand, zap, 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 and they would just stand there and let you kill them. When they're dead, switch party AI on, everybody rushes up, loot the corpse, move on to the next. And that's how I discovered that entirely by accident. So that is a lovely game breaking bug. And it was patched out so quickly that my father-in-law bought a replacement copy of Baldur's Gate. One of his discs got scratched and he bought it for $10 at computer game store when you could still buy computer games on a shelf. And I said, I got to try this. Let me try this. Nope. BioWare or whoever it was, they patched that right out. Black Isle, I think. They patched that right out. So that was gone, unfortunately. And no, that does not and never will work at the tabletop. What are some of the biggest things you guys ever tried to get over on DMs? Todd, what did you try to get over on the DM?
Oh wow. Many things. There was once with a dwarf fighter I had back when I was 10, 11 years old, when I very first found my very first group. This is back before my mother burned everything I had because, satanic panic.
Right.
And his name was Rowboat One. And I was a kid. Naming things weren't yet my forte.
I understand.
And so I had found this hammer that was a glowing hammer, right? So it's magical. And I just knew it was a cool hammer of returning and I could be like Thor, right? Well, it wasn't a hammer of returning. It just did extra damage. But I kept throwing the hammer, and then he was like, "Okay, it hits," and I'd go, and I summon the hammer back, and no, it doesn't do that yet. Does you said it did? You said this is a hammer of returning. And that's what our dungeon master was. I was in 5th grade, and he was much older and much more socialized than I was. He was a 7th grader. And he said, "You know what? You're right. It is a hammer of returning, and it will return to your hand as soon as you go over there and pick it up." So that kind of became the gag.
All right, you're up, Safi.
I wouldn't say I got one over or anything like that, but we had a party member die, and we were in the middle of a jungle. And my cleric was not high enough level to bring him back to life. However, I came up with the idea, well, let's reanimate the dead so he can walk with us so we don't have to carry him.
Sure.
And we used him as a pack horse, so we had him carry the gear out with us. Unfortunately, when we got back to town, we then figured out that we had to actually use a wish to bring him back because the regular bringing back to life, once you reanimate, doesn't work. So we had to find a high enough level temple to be able to do a wish spell. And our GM, just for fun, did some random rolls to see what race and gender they came back as, because it's a wish.
Okay.
So it wasn't really getting one over on them, but it was just using a clever workaround to get them back with us, and because we weren't going to be carrying this body around. And we just took advantage of the fact that we had basically a pack horse with us.
I think
He was a corpse of holding.
a corpse of holding, exactly. I think if there's a critical need, I mean that's to me as a DM, like if you have a magic user just going around like, oh, one of our fighting men is dead, and we have 1,000 gold pieces more than we can easily carry, and everybody's maxed out. I'll just raise dead on him and just use him as a robo valet until he rots to death. I think that is ethically questionable. But on the flip side, if you have someone who is lawful or good or lawful good, a rare trait in a magic user, but it happens, and you hit them with animate dead, literally as a method of getting their body or bodies, depending, out of the dungeon, I think that's a perfectly valid. I don't know that I would penalize. You might at that point say, okay, now we're going to put the poor soul down. We're basically going to coup de grace the animate body, and then we're going to normally raise them back up. I don't think it's necessarily an evil act to go through all of that to ensure that you can get poor Bob out of the dungeon rather than leaving him as food for a gelatinous cube. I myself, I think probably the only I tried to get it over on a DM moment, because I am perma DM. I am forever DM. The most recent time I got to play was my buddy Dan. And Dan, if you're watching this, excellent job, my friend. Dan ran from the first week of September until Monday night. Ran the Monday night AD&D campaign that I typically run. But so that was my first step into it. But I would say as a player, and it's not see, I tend to toe the line pretty well, but I've probably, just by dint of not looking at things closely enough, quote unquote, gotten away with a few things. I think once playing AD&D as a kid, I convinced a DM to let me set something on fire with magic missile. Not like a fireball, but like, oh, that's, he's standing behind a hay bale. What if I cast magic missile at the hay bale? It'll set on fire, right? It's a burst of energy, like a blaster from Star Wars, right? And I kind of convinced him that, yeah, that would work. So that's my worst sin. I've never, brought somebody a 10-page contract that I got a paralegal friend to look at so I could wring the maximum out of it.
The only time I ever actually got anything over on our DM when I was a kid, oddly enough, involved my elven character Melf. Yes, his name was Melf the Elf. Get over it. I was 10, and so I was big into crossbows because I was a weird kid. I know that's a shocker. And I kept wanted to fire more than one bolt a turn. And so I had this idea and I talked the DM into it. And I took him to a weapons like smith or whatever, and had him build two other crossbows, one up top and one below. And then the coup de grace was, it was an automatic crossbow fire. All I had to do was replace a little wooden clip, and it would, as soon as all three fired, it would automatically reload. Talked him into it.
So you had a Chinese repeating crossbow.
Yeah, but it was a triple stack, so it shot 3 bolts at one time. So it was one roll to attack, and if I hit, then I rolled 3 for damage.
Yeah, that's pretty cheesy. That is
Yes.
that is some prime cheese right there.
Well, it was pretty cool though, because that became an heirloom item, and it ended up being passed down to a like great whatever, however many greats you want, grandson, and his name was Erdrick the Great, and he was an Elven Ranger. And when it came to him, when he first came into a lot of money, he had it gold plated, and so it became the gold plated. Well, we had a nickname for it at that point that I cannot repeat on this
Thank you.
channel. But it would rhyme with pluck, and you is what it would rhyme with.
I gotcha.
And it was
I gotcha.
the golden.
Right.
See, I would take. Yeah, always have fun with spells. We'd come into different things, and I would look at the spells, being a cleric, so I could, obviously change them up a little bit. And I would look for different effects and logically discuss the different aspects of the spell to see if it could apply to different things. Like we had one that we had to go basically into this water cavern, but taking the underwater breathing spell and converting it to be able to handle different aspects of going into the depths of this cavern, just using the different effects and how we were going to do that, because we had, our party was like 7 people, and the underwater breathing spell could only, I think it was up to 4 people or something like that. So we had to kind of get creative with that, because we had one magic user and a cleric in the group that were the spellcasters. So it was finding different ways to use spells to maximize for the party to keep everybody going is usually where I was at.
Sure. And I've said this before, and like this gets bandied around like almost it's a dirty word, and it does kind of bother me. I am a confrontational anti-player DM. I don't mean confrontational and anti-player that I scream and rant at my players and cackle as I deny them the chance to have fun. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions about us old school DMs that we're fun killers. We're not here to have fun. We're here to game kind of mindset. And that's not me. The thing about me as a DM and a quote unquote confrontational not confrontational. That's not the word I meant. I'm sorry. Adversarial DM is, yes, I am trying my best against the party, but it's kind of like going outside and playing one-on-one basketball with the old man, or shooting pool with him, or playing chess with a master, or poker against a really good guy who's playing poker. Do you want a guy who's going to throw the game in the name of fun? Or do you want to come out the other end going, I did it, man, we survived Tomb of Horrors, we made it through the GDQ modules, we got through White Plume Mountain, man, we took everything you threw at us and we still won. Now I don't I'm not going to do something like, yeah, I know you're trying to cast teleport 10-foot radius to get the party out of danger, but the rumbling of the collapsing ceiling is too loud. Your verbal components of your spell can't be heard. Sorry. I'm going to need some D6s to roll this damage if everybody can. I'm not going to do that. But at the same time, I will play to the fullest abilities. So I expect players to play to the fullest abilities. So Safi, when you say using spells in new and unique ways to try and overcome a dungeon, good. You're playing to your maximum ability then, because winning winning through like that is the real challenge. I mean, if you watch a football game, do you want to watch the Patriots play against a flag football team from the YMCA up the road, or do you want to watch the Patriots play against the Steelers? Do you want to watch a clash of titans? And the thing about, even as an adversarial DM, I may say, "Oh, you guys killed my frost giants. I'll get you next time," and I grumble and complain about it. I want players to win. I cheer players on inside. I like to see players win, but I want it to be by their own bootstraps. You know what I'm saying?
Well, there is a difference between actively trying to kill the group and playing the villains intelligently. There is a big difference.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, and I think it can be summed up in, it's very easy for me to kill an infinite number of characters in a game. All right.
Oh, it's called Rocks Fall, You Die.
Rock fall, everybody's die. Bolts from the blue, call it what you will. And I can just fold my arms and say, nope, no save, you die. Sorry. That's just how it is. The hard part as a DM is keeping characters alive.
I do have a question for you.
I have an answer for you. I don't know if it'll be the answer you want, but
have you ever had a moment, and it may be multiple moments in different campaigns with different groups, that they have completely stumped you, that you've had to get up and walk away for a minute just because something completely threw you off or derailed you to the point that you're going to lose it if you don't get up for a second?
I can't say that I've gotten that wound up, but I will put on a great show of being distressed at the table. Like, God, okay. I was talking about this earlier this evening. We were, I put a Shoggoth in one of my games, and I'm not going to bring the Deities and Demigods back up, but I did. I put a Shoggoth. Hey, Kyle, I see you out there. I hope you're feeling better, brother. Hope you're feeling better. That's our captain, Safi Tonka. Yep. He's out there. But anyhow, so I put a Shoggoth in there, as I was like, this is going to be a dramatic moment. The party approaches this big circular pit in this Romanesque city, but it's underground underneath the mountains in Greyhawk, and they approach the pit and they hear this noisome squelching sound as the Shoggoth rises up, and a couple of my players are in a Call of Cthulhu and they know what it is because the thing is muttering and piping and they're freaked out. And 3 rounds it took them to take a 20 hit dice creature down. It hit once and did 8 points of damage. I was close to flipping a table. That pissed me off because I had set it up as this great horrific thing, and I literally could have dumped a bucket of gray oozes on them. Like 3 gray oozes would have been more of a challenge than 1 Shoggoth. So yeah, it does happen sometimes when we see, our keikaku, as the Japanese say, just as planned, all according to keikaku, just kind of crumble in front of us. It's it can be a real kick in the seat of the pants sometimes, but still through it all, again, I love to see players triumph through the adversity that I throw at them. And I have gotten people at the table mad at me as a DM, like, basically you're being too rough on us. And I'm like, I am being exactly precisely rough enough and not a little bit more.
So another question for you. How much time of preparation do you put in for each of your episodes or adventures or whatever.
So the Monday night. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I mean, like, obviously you've got weeklies and such like that. So
the Monday night game is it is almost flying forward by dint of kinetic energy at this point, because that campaign has been going on for multiple years. I believe we started that back in 2014 in one iteration or another. I mean, that's nothing on people that have got, like somebody mentioned this earlier in the chat, 30, 35 year-long campaigns. The GM Dawn over in the Discord has had a game going now for approaching 30 years. I hope I get that much game out of this. But that game literally, like the things I've set in motion, it's like a flywheel. You get it turning, but then eventually you can let it go and it'll spin for the longest time. So that game, actually, I don't do a huge amount of prep for. The Tuesday night game that I live stream, and thank you for everyone who watches that live stream, because that's a lot of fun to DM. The Tuesday night AD&D game, I actually do a fair amount of prep for, because it is a shorter game and it is for an audience. So I do try and make sure that there's not a lot of hang on. I gotta let me scroll through this real quick, because we're on a time budget. And with regard to Friday Night Gamma World, that's just been kind of seat of my pants. I sort of have ideas and notes, but Friday Night Call of Cthulhu has been very planned, because it's a different tone than AD&D or even Gamma World. So I hope all that elaborate bloviating on my part fully answered your question.
Oh yeah.
So then the Gamma World thing, did when everybody kind of chipped in and we rolled up Bogo Jorts, what were you thinking when Bogo was created? Were you thinking, great, how am I going to kill a Yoda?
No, I was thinking this is hilarious, and if it gets people watching the video and watching the channel, then good. And if people enjoy it, if it is entertaining, then good. And that's one thing, I don't want to go off on too much of a rant, because people get mad at me when I don't say nice things about a certain program that shows on the web that is people playing D&D. And Kyle is very much my way, and he'll say in the comments if I'm wrong, but I think he's got my back here. If something happens in that ship and we're all rolling ones as we're trying to land, and we smear ourselves out across the runway of the next planet we're going to, we're rolling up new characters. That's it. Or the shootout in the hallway, more accurately, last week. That literally could have been a TPK right then, right there. And it's the same with Gamma World. It's the same with the Call of Cthulhu game, which does wrap up Friday night. I do encourage everyone, if you haven't seen the previous episodes, go back a few weeks, start with episode 1 and watch them through, and then catch us this Friday night for the Gotterdammerung conclusion of the Halloween Call of Cthulhu mini campaign. Or the Gamma World game. If you guys had screwed around with the atom bomb or with the neutron bomb that you found, roll up new characters. I don't do, plot points, or if the system has a karma system built in to avoid things like that, that's fine. But I tend to let the dice fall where they may, and that may not make for the best, most dramatic show, and I may never have 10 million viewers and people cosplaying as my players at gaming conventions, but I would rather show people, the audience that we have, what real role-playing is like, and that yes, an adventure can end in a total party kill.
But you know what, though, Bill, from a player's point of view, and granted, I'm weird. I'll admit it, but I never really. It never bothered me if one of my characters died. It never did because immediately became excited because for me to randomly roll up a character, that's like opening up a present on Christmas morning because you don't know what you're going to get. You know, that's why I like with the whole BOGO Jorts thing. I think I was having more fun when you guys were rolling the mutations instead of me. Because I was like, this is cool. This is cool. I was flipping out. My wife came in and looked at me like, you're nuts. What are you? Because I'd have to mute my phone and I'd go, oh my God, yes, that is awesome.
Yeah. And that, that dovetails nicely into something. And we're playing a little 3 square here.
Let me inject something real quick.
Go ahead.
What our group did when we wanted to change up was we took like our support players, our secondary character kind of things that were along with our party, and we actually played them on a mini adventure.
Mm-hmm.
So we sent them off to do like basically, retrieve something or something small that would just be an episode or two just to play different characters to liven it back up and refresh things.
Mm. And that's very cool. That is a good way to approach that. And I posted about this on Facebook the other day, and what we're talking about nicely dovetails into a little bit of a rant, not on Facebook, on the other hellish social media website that has dumbed down and smoothed out the brains of 3/4 of the Western world's population. Twitter, that's the one. But Twitter is practically the Library of Alexandria compared to TikTok, though, so I feel a little better. And I again, I'm going to bounce this back to you guys because I do want your input here, because you were talking about the creation of BOGO Jorts, and you were talking about, your ranger of Elistray and so on and etc. As I have been painting up the green devil face walls and I putter around in my office, I gotta have something to listen to. One of my favorite YouTube channels that I like is, of course, Grognardia. And they basically read horror stories from the worst places on the internet about D&D stuff. Like, I went expecting to play D&D. I was locked in a room with 6 fat guys all pretending to be fairy princesses and describing in disgusting detail the sex acts they were performing together. Now I'm sitting at home crying and drinking as I type this. But I got suggested another channel, which is full of equally bad horror stories. And so I put those on in the background, because when you're mass painting stuff like terrain or an army, or in my case, the green devil faces, which are the only minis I'm ever going to paint, unless somebody pays me a lot. They're the only ones, they're the only print run that will be sold painted. But I had these on in the background. Every D&D horror story, just about. Now, there are some people who are just degenerates. Like I said, see my previous example. It's like you show up and it's just, here's 2.5 hours of my fetishes on parade, but it's all cool because it's dice and paper, right? This doesn't creep you out that I'm talking about all this. And of course it creeps you out. It would creep anybody out. But most of the, and that's when Bob got mad and flipped the table. He actually flipped the table. Every one of these stories seems to have a common thread. And the common thread is when the guy who does the videos is reading it and he's reading the D&D horror stories, it's like, my character's background was paragraph of information info dump. The NPC that I was facing was paragraph of information info dump. The guy that I got mad at the table was paragraph of information info dump. Character backgrounds. Not backgrounds like he's a fighter, she's a paladin, they're a ranger, and so on. Backstories. And the conflicts come because this person has pages and pages of backstory. This person has pages and pages of backstory. And so when they come together in an adventuring scenario, when what they should be focusing on is sneakily following Sir Robilar out of the city of Greyhawk to find out where his treasure stash is, this person's 9-page backstory and this person's 9-page backstory, the gears get locked because, oh, but it's important to me that I wear bright red clothes with silvery spangled bells on the belt and it jingles as I walk. That's part of my backstory. So many of these could just simply be resolved if you didn't have a backstory. And I don't mean make your characters uninteresting. I'm not talking about making your characters uninteresting. Your backstory starts in session 1. Your backstory begins when you enter the Smoky Tavern, when you wake up for another day on the caravan, when you find yourself on the prison ship with your fellows. What you did before as a farmer, as an orphan, as a street urchin, as a banker, an accountant, a peasant, whatever, all of that's prologue. What matters, the story, your backstory is, here's how we got out of the Tomb of Horrors. Here's how we survived White Plume Mountain. Here's how we triumphed and keep on the Borderlands. Here's how we overthrew the evil cultists in the village of Hamlet. That is the backstory you should be building. And if you're focused right and you're building that backstory with the other players at the table, there is no conflict because you're all striving towards a common goal. You don't come to the table with preconceived notions about what you do. I'm just suggesting, this is my opinion, and I want to hear my erstwhile companion's opinion on this too. This isn't just my rant, and then we're done for the evening. I am of the opinion, the less backstory, the far better a game you get. I mean, what is Safi, you cook, you know this. What is the best spaghetti sauce? That which you make, or just something out of a jar that's pre-made?
Really depends upon how much time and effort you want to put in. And
It depends
what you have on hand.
Right. But assuming all things are equal, it's going to be the homemade. It's going to be what you make. What you do at the table is what echoes through eternity. And I hand the mic back over to you guys. Let's hear it.
Well, go ahead.
Okay. My experience is the backstory is for the player themselves, for their character. And generally speaking, that's going to come out in small pieces here and there throughout the adventure. It's not going to be the focus. It's going to be part of who their character is, and it's going to be doled out like little, nugget treats along the way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's adding to the character, but it's not the focus of the adventure. It's basically like, going back to your cooking analogy, it's the spices that are blended in that give the full flavor.
Okay. Todd, what do you think?
Well, I would have to agree, and I would also have to say that the backstory cannot be, because you don't play D&D to flaunt backstory. You play D&D to adventure. And we had a rule when we were kids, and it's a rule that we kept even to this day. The rare times we were able to get together or roll dice anymore, but that's all your backstory is you were a farmer, or you were a ditch digger, or you were the rat catcher, or whatever, right? And that's as far as your backstory goes when you're level 1. Once
Mhm.
your character hits level 3, then you can say, oh, hey, and by the way, I know the blacksmith in this town because he one time, he's a buddy of mine that used to fix my plowshares on the farm, or hey, I've got a wife and kid, or something like that, and it would just kind of grow naturally. And we found that it was best to do it like that because the first couple of levels, we were still trying to get to know who the characters were, when we would role play, because we always, at the end of the adventuring day, we'd be sitting around the campfire, and then that's when the DM would say, okay, you're around the campfire, go. And then that's when we were kids, that's how we practiced role playing. Right? Was pretending to be our characters, talking trash to each other around a campfire, as people would do. And then once we hit 3rd level, well, then we started kind of sharing like little things about our character, and 9 out of 10 times it was stuff to make the other people laugh, And I always had a boy that was missing a leg, and his name was always Hobble. And it didn't matter what character I was playing. When I hit 3rd level, everybody knew I was going to tell a Hobble story and how I'm trying to, make money for my boy Hobble.
Right on. So I guess, I mean, you guys have the advantage of, now I'm not asking for numbers because I am not stupid savvy, so don't
I don't mind. I don't care.
we have the advantage, I think, of being of Gen X in that kind of general pool of
Yes, yeah.
of age there. Stop it, Todd. You're going to get me demonetized. Anyway, no. But I guess, I mean, we all have horror stories we could tell about D&D, right? I mean,
No.
Okay. Lucky you. I mean, I don't have any modern ones, but I certainly had uncomfortable times at D&D games that have been, but anyway, I think they see, first of all, I mean, I'm seeking YouTube channels about D&D horror stories, right? And by the way, to the people who do that, that is a really good grift. All right. Any one of those videos where a guy puts up like a decent title card, that's one thing you'll never get out of me until I actually have a media person working with me, is decent thumbnail title cards on my videos. Mine are awful. They're just like,
I enjoy your thumbnails, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. But no, I have, these guys, like, one of their videos with a provocative title, like, I can't believe the DM's girlfriend wrecked the game because I wouldn't, ellipsis. And of course you're going to click that video, right? Of course you're going to listen to that. So it's a really good grift. I'm not knocking the guys who do it in the least. But I think it boils down to, and here's where I got to get my Depends on and get my walker out and put my hearing aid on. It really does seem to be more prevalent now. I mean, there's an entire subreddit that if you don't read it for a week, you will fall behind and not be able to catch up with all the new posts of D&D horror stories. Not even RPG horror stories, D&D horror stories. Where it's people talking about just page after page after page after page of, I can't believe this happened, I can't believe that happened, and it goes back to that, well, my ASMR half kinku paladin assassin warlock preacher surfer carpenter of
barista. Don't forget barista.
Right. 5 levels of barista. Got in trouble because the guy playing the half gray ooze quarter tiefling warlock, sorcerer,
Barbarian.
barbarian. Yeah, barbarian's a big one. And he said, well, that's what my character would do. And then I tried to explain to him that my character's backstory. I think the problem is not, it is that they just want it all out there. Is perhaps the new way is that everything is all out there and it's not drips and drabs. It's not, my character was in the Navy, and then 5 sessions later, my character saw a lot of action, so his hands kind of tremble sometimes after a shootout. And then 10 sessions after that, we had to fire on what we thought was a ship full of explosives, and it turns out to have been an evac transport, spaced out over a long time. They show up with the, Game of Thrones length character background and want it all right then. I guess that's more where I'm coming from.
The only horror stories per se that I can, there's two that come to mind. One, I'll just wrap up by saying our DM was more interested in showing us what his Dragonborn Ranger could do rather than what the players could do. And we'll just leave it at that. And that lasted all of 2 sessions. And then as a group, we all just got up and were like, just play with your Dragonborn, dude. We're tired of being spectators. And the second one was the most odd D&D game I've ever been in. And it was an older gentleman. He was like in his 60s, I guess, at the time. And he had he had a bunch of grown kids, but he had one kid that was like 10 or 11. And I knew the guy because he worked at a store I used to frequent all the time. It was a bookstore. And we got to talking, and he said, hey, I'm starting up a D&D group for my son. I'm trying to get parents involved with their kids, and we're just going to make it like a big thing. They've never played before. Would you like to come and just kind of be the ringer? And I said, yeah, sure. That sounds like fun. So we showed up for session 0. I am, besides the DM, I'm the only adult at the table. Okay. And there's all these 10, 11, 12-year-old kids. And there was like eight kids. Okay. So it was a party of 9 counting me. And I was like, wow, this is going to be crazy. Okay, this is going to be fun. And I was just going to take a back seat and let the kids have fun, right?
Right.
And we had this encounter with some kobolds, and I was like, I'll stay out here and make sure more don't sneak up behind us. You guys go in there and get them, have fun, right? And these kids started being incredibly descriptive of what they were doing to these kobolds every time like their weapon would hit. They were getting like real descriptive and very graphic. And I was just kind of sitting there in shock because I was like, I did not think like that when I was your age. And I looked to the DM like, are you gonna say something, or is this cool? And he was laughing, and I thought, well, okay, well, I guess this is cool. Okay, just you're worrying about nothing. Then later on in the adventure, we ended up in this little town that had a brothel, and of course they're all boys. Right?
Oh, Todd, be careful, buddy.
And
continue though.
It was like they were saying things that was making me blush, and I was at the time, I was like in my mid-20s, maybe 23, 24, maybe. And I was sitting there dumbfounded. And again, I turned to the DM and looked at him, and he was looking as dumbfounded as I was. And I said, hey guys, I get you're trying to impress the two adult guys here, I understand that, but even we don't talk like that. So let's just say you guys had a great time. We'll all giggle about that, and then we'll move on. And they didn't want to do that because everybody was trying to one up the one before.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, man, no, I can't. I feel dirty. I can't be here.
Yeah, no, I know how you feel. I have. It's happened before, and as Jimmy Invictus says, SS demonetization ahoy. So we're just gonna, detail free and no context. I do want to give Safi a chance. Have you ever been in an uncomfortable gaming situation like that? Yes or no? No details required.
No.
Okay. All right.
I mean, there's been instances where, it alludes to things, or, it's more of like basically the old movies that you see a kiss and then it fades to black type of thing, and you know what's going on, but you don't have to describe it.
Yeah. I mean, I think
Right.
every dungeon master should add the words "fade to black" to their lexicon of interactions, and maybe don't launch into the, I saw this on a certain website. I'm sure describing it as being something that's going on between characters should be fine, right?
I mean, we'll poke fun afterwards type of thing. Like we might make jokes. We had one character that played a tabaxi. And so we made the furry jokes.
Okay. All right.
Yes. Keeping it clean.
Yeah. Thank you. But anyway, yeah. So I just think to kind of rein this back in, I turned around, walked away from the cockpit, and you guys are doing loop-de-loops now. No, that's my fault. And you know what? I think I'm just gonna drop my line of thought, and because that uncomfortable gaming, I once showed up and nobody brought snacks. Damn it! That is oh my gosh! I can't even. You don't bring snacks? What kind of a monster doesn't bring snacks to a game?
And he didn't specify what kind of snacks either.
No,
it could be the liquid kind.
That's true. Kyle mentioned this story. He had a friend show up with like they were apparently the place they were gaming was above a Korean convenience store, and the guy brought in just like the nastiest snacks. Just like the most horrible stuff to the Western palate. Don't at me, please. Out there, random people, you know what I mean? The strangest and most unusual heretofore unsampled stuff, and they were just like, but I guess if you like that, that's a good way to make sure that nobody will eat your snacks. And you can't get tagged for not bringing snacks. I brought snacks. You guys didn't want any. You brought seaweed crisps.
I do the black licorice myself, but
that's
usually a love-hate thing.
Oh, that reminds me. The FDA actually issued a warning about black licorice. It's fucking terrible. Sorry.
Preach, brother.
It's good. It's just moderation.
I can't licorice anymore because the last time I did, I was 19 years old. We went to a friend's house to play Dungeons and Dragons. And his girlfriend was making Uzo screwdrivers.
Ah.
And I had some Uzo screwdrivers. And then when I got home, I thought, this tasted so good, my toilet should get a chance.
Right.
To have some screwdriver. And I mean, oh my gosh, it felt like someone was driving a bus up my torso and out my and all I could taste was licorice.
Yep.
Well, let me tell you this, Bill. This will make you laugh. So I'm living in Las Vegas, right? And find a group of nerds to play some D&D with, and they were playing second edition, but hey, it's D&D, so let's go for it. And so we're playing, we're having a good time, and it's a few sessions in, and one guy keeps talking about his girlfriend wants to come play, and we were all like, "Well, yeah, sure. You know what's the big deal?" And the DM says mistakenly, "Okay, well, your girlfriend can come play, but she has to bring the snacks the first night." And we all ha about it. We thought it was a joke. Well, no, the DM was being serious about it, and that was she showed up to play and she brought snacks, and that's the night we discovered she was vegan. And that was the last time she was asked to bring snacks. I was the only one that ate the tofu. The tofu was really good. The tofu was really good, but everything else, not so much.
Yeah. You know, here's a little tip. When it comes to vegan snacks, if you put enough coconut oil in fried kale, it slides right out of the pan into the trash. So much easier.
Well, tofu actually to me is good. I enjoy it when I was in Las Vegas. I had a lot of friends from China and Korea and Singapore, and they knew how to make tofu, like the little cubes, and it would be flavored or whatever with bouillon, and it was very, very good. And her tofu was great, but everything else was not so much.
No, I don't mind tofu, like hot and sour soup, a little bit of tofu in there. Oh, it's so good, so good. Or if it's surrounded on all sides by noodles and steamed vegetables and stir fry chicken and hot sauce, then tofu is great. But you know, so basically it tastes like actual good food. But no, like Kyle said, if you're gonna bring a snack, please bring something that everybody will like. That's you gotta do that. You can't say, well, I brought squid eyes last week. Nobody had any of that. So,
and no broccoli crust pizza either.
No broccoli crust pizza, please.
Never heard of that before.
Pineapple pizza.
You were very lucky then, Sissy. You were very lucky.
So what is, without getting into dead rat porridge, because I know both of you guys have brought that up to me in the Discord, what's your favorite gaming food then? What do you like?
Pizza is always good. Chips, dip. Just like snacky foods, I guess.
Yeah, I'm more of an appetizer kind of thing. That way you can graze as you're playing.
I like pizza. I'll tell you two food disasters that happened, and both of them happened out here in the studio. But this is years ago. This is probably a decade or more ago, I think. All of our guys showed up, and we probably we had like 7 people here playing D&D, and then my wife and myself. So there were 9 of us crammed into this basically deluxe jail cell sized space around this table playing D&D for a few hours. And for dinner, they ordered pizza. Well, nobody wanted to drive back across town with half of a pizza or, some slices. So they left all the pizza here. And they were like, keep it. And I was like, this is awesome. This is great. We can have lunch, dinner, supper, whatever. And so they were helping me clean up and put minis away and that sort of thing. And we closed up the pizza, all the pizza's boxes, and somebody turned around and set it on a stack of storage storage containers to get it out of the way and so on. And the cleanup went and et cetera. And the wife and I went to bed. Note what's missing from that story: the pizza actually being put away. So I come back out here at midday the next day because I have no reason to be out here. and there's a stack of very dead pizzas, just a box full of botulism sitting there. And that was a shame. But the other thing, and it may have even been on the same weekend, my wife, bless her heart, set a 2-liter of Coke on top of the washing machine.
Oh.
And it was pushed back far enough that I didn't notice it. I ran the washing machine
And it exploded?
I can see right now, looking around this room, I can see spots on the walls where Coca-Cola was slung. And
So it was like a Mentos, huh?
Yeah. It blew up and basically must have rolled back and forth, just hosing the room like one of those arc-shaped sprinklers that you can get, just kind of doing this for a good minute. Because I will
The
still
fountain at the water fountains at Vegas, huh?
Yeah, I will still occasionally pull a book off the shelf that I haven't looked at in a long time. Like, oh look, there's some caramelized soda on the spine. How do we handle the junk food hangover? I don't get those. I just don't eat crap the next day. So,
the way you can avoid that is you can follow what I call the Todd diet. That's where you eat one meal a day.
Yeah, I'm not doing that, dude. Anyway, the one thing though that I will say that I'm actually okay with this. This is going to sound so weird, and I know this is going to make people cringe. As long as you're not like holding like a small bundle of French fries that have been completely immersed in ketchup over the pages of a book, I don't flip out about the occasional little stain here or there, on a D&D book. It gives it character. And I love it when I'm buying a used RPG book and like, oh look, there's a little curve on one page of a soda where obviously somebody set down a soda can or a coffee cup or something like that. Like, that's history. That shows somebody loved that book. Somebody was sitting and enjoying gaming and togetherness. Like I used to have an Unearthed Arcana that, based on the shape and size, literally looked like somebody had set a slice of pizza on the inside back cover of it. And I just thought that was the funniest thing in the world. It didn't disgust me or gross me out because it had been decades, right? At that point, it's a stain that's never going to come out. But I'm a collector, or rather, I'm not a collector. I'm a gamer first. So that didn't ook me out or weird me out. In Viking, you do need some snack spillage as a player. It's called a character sheet for a reason. The best character sheets, back me up on this panel, have little stains and marks on them, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Usually there's like spots on it that are thin paper or actually holes because you kept erasing and writing over them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That too.
Did y'all ever do the Cheeto thumbprint on y'all's character sheets?
No, I cannot say that I have.
It's you remember way back in the olden times when it had that little bitty square.
Well, yeah, Cheeto fingers, yeah.
Yeah, where you were supposed to draw your symbol or your character in that little bitty square in the top left corner. Y'all remember that?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's because none of us really could draw when we were kids, so we would just eat a bunch of Cheeto poofs. The big poofy kind, because that you could get the most cheese on your fingers.
Puffs.
And our symbol on all of our character sheets was we would get our hands good and cheesy, and then we would do a thumbprint in that little box, and then we'd go wash our hands and come back and play. We were weird kids, Bill. We were weird.
You were weird kids. You were very weird kids. So
our parents were worried about us for a very long time.
I mean, we've covered, I think, the most important pressing topics of the day. Don't bring a backstory. You're not J.R.R. Tolkien. Bring snacks, for God's sake. Bring snacks.
Snacks
Avoid
that people will like.
Snacks people will like. It is in order. People, snacks, setting, system. Anything else you guys want to discuss tonight? Anything you want to bring up? Any thoughts? Anything that you want to rant about? Here's your bully pulpit. Here's your platform. I'm giving you the power of an audience of 14 people, for God's sake.
This isn't so much a rant, but I think this would be a great idea for a show, Bill. And I'm just gonna fastball it right here. I think since you have one ex-minister and one current minister, they're kind of on staff in the Discord, I think it would be very cool if you had these two individuals on your show where you invented a small pantheon, say three gods.
Maybe that might be an interesting panel show. I will contemplate this. I've got a kind of a full plate for the next 10 days, but yes, I will definitely consider that. Thank you. Safi, anything?
Well, primarily, I mean, I really enjoy the games and the participation. Opening up to other RPG type of things. I mean, I know you're kind of spacing it out with Call of Cthulhu, but other ones, like I know Aliens seems to be pretty popular. Star Wars, perhaps, Dune. I mean, some of the big ones that people have obviously some background on, but haven't necessarily played it.
Okay. Interesting. Well, we try to explore other stuff. We've been on a big D&D kick lately, other than Call of Cthulhu, and I don't really count Gamma World as not D&D because it says in the Gamma World rules this is meant to be compatible with Dungeons and Dragons. And Kyle's got us pinned down on Wednesdays with Traveler, but yeah, we've been fairly D&D centric, and I definitely think you're onto something to kind of come back around to talking about other old school RPGs, because God knows I've got stacks of them. Just you guys can barely see kind of over there the stacks of stuff. So yeah, definitely we'll definitely pursue that. Dave says, "What did I miss? Do what I love. You show up for the." Thank you. I appreciate that, because guys, audience, panelists, participants, game players, I love you guys too. Honestly, if there was one person out there who was like, I just need to communicate, I just need somebody to talk at me and something to listen to, I would do this. 4K camera, 1080p camera, the 720p webcam that's rolling around on the floor and I'll step on and break and regret. Studio lights, light bulb, it doesn't matter. I do this for you guys, and you guys come here and listen to me. So as far as I'm concerned, it's mutual fun and it's mutual appreciation. So when I say I love you guys, I mean it. So I'll just wrap up by saying thank you to Safi and Tucka for showing up on Shoot the Shit night. And I never forget the Crab Davel, but in all seriousness, I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys. Be good to each other. Please be good to each other. And I'll talk to you later. Good night.
Have a good night.
Watch out for that.